Hello everybody. Today we're going to be talking about 5 tips to capping or recapping a point. Tip number 1, understand the terrain in which you're working with. What I would do here is a few days before the match, even if you've played the map 1,000 times already, be sure to just jump in admin camera on your servers and fly around and refresh your memory as to where the key buildings are, refresh where your terrain is, whether it's open field, a wheat field, a fence, a hedge, all those sorts of things, because that's going to play into where you start allocating infantry off of the opening. An extreme example here is that you're not going to dedicate a whole bunch of infantry to holding an open field. Okay. If we think of maps like Foy, you're not going to send an opening truck to the open field and say, okay, hey guys, put up your outposts here and hold the line. That's just not going to happen. And I think, once again, extreme example, but just want to make the point of you want to understand the terrain in which you're working with, the buildings, because maybe there's a key building that you need crossfire from on different parts that offers a great vantage point. For example, here on Verville-sur-Mer, this is Omaha Beach, by the way, one of the key parts to controlling Verville-sur-Mer is actually down to the south here on Artillery Battery. Why? Because Artillery Battery, they have a very key radar bunker. And that radar bunker you can get on top of, you can build AT guns, and you can shoot into the back of Verville-sur-Mer and shut down the Axis armor as they try to approach. Same thing goes with MGs. You could put some MGs here on radar tower and fire those and crossfire into the point. And next thing you know, the Axis infantry are pinned down and they can't really make any ground, and so they have to reallocate over here to the north and try to push down to the south. And meanwhile, the Allies are gaining a whole bunch of ground because now all this is freed up. Okay, so just understand the point in which you're trying to capture and where might be very good parts to crossfire. Verville-sur-Mer, you want to hold Artillery Battery. That goes for both sides, Allies and Axis. And then when it comes to the opening, understand, okay, who generally has the advantage? There are tons of streams out there available that you can watch where you can even watch the best teams, WTH, ESPT, Helios. On the console side, you can watch 3/5 or Exodus or KRC, any one of those. And you can understand how their allocations throughout the map were made for their matches. And there's, like I said, I've casted a lot of matches in Omaha, so you can take a look at my streams and just look at what they did. Were they successful? Did they lose the first cap? Did they have to recap? That sort of thing. But going back to the first point, understand the terrain. What are the key parts? Where can we get crossfire on? Where should we expect the enemy armor to send their opening mediums? Because once again, the enemy medium is so big off of the opening to be able to knock out, because as soon as the enemy medium is taken out, then your medium can push up and wipe out their light tanks, because most likely they're going to have a recon tank, another light tank, that sort of thing. Very common to see multiple light and recon tanks on the opening for both teams. So you have to take advantage of that first few minute gap before they're able to bring up their first heavy. And it's so key and can play have such a big impact. But yeah, understand the terrain, understand the buildings, understand where you can get crossfire onto multiple points. Where should we put down our opening garrisons? There's a lot of things in this first point, but it's very key because it goes hand in hand with the terrain. You're not going to put a garrison, most likely, in an open field, right? You're not going to do that. You're going to put a garrison behind a building, behind a fence, behind a hedge, those sorts of things. Off of the opening, that's where light tanks usually look for, or recon tanks look for enemy opening garrisons. And so here on Omaha, where would we expect the enemy opening garrisons? Well, for the Allies, we would expect one here in the building complex, and then remember the 200-meter distance in between the garrisons. Maybe one back here, one down here, and then they would possibly put one, there's a garrison marker right here, but possibly maybe down there as well. And then they'll shove this one over here after they understand the terrain and see, hey, this is all open field. This is a little bit of wheat field with a small fence. We could put a garrison there. And so we'll put one there. And then up here, maybe we'll put one up on the road. Now that's 6 garrisons. Probably not likely, but I'm just going all out here and saying, hey, these are all the possible garrison spots in which we can maybe expect one off of the opening. Going back to the first point, understand the terrain, the key parts, the buildings, where they're going to push from, Where should we push from? Where the mid cap is essentially located? Is it on our side of the grid? Is it on their side of the grid? Are we expected to cap first? Is the enemy historically expected to cap first? Those sorts of things. Because you can also think about it in this way, is that let's take an example like SME Church on St. Mary-Galise. Now, that is, I think, about 90% of the games I've casted, that it's favored for the allies to cap first. They get much easier truck routes into the point, they can get their bodies inside the church, and they can cap pretty easily. What we usually see from the Axis is that they play for recap, and they'll dedicate a few bodies in the middle towards that road, if you all know what I'm talking about, and then they'll mostly work on resetting everything towards the north and the south and making sure to start wrapping around the point. That's a very serious thing that teams need to just prep for, is that they need to tell their teams, hey, everybody, we're playing for recap. We don't expect this to cap. We don't expect to cap first. So let's play for recap off of the opening. Because that way you can adjust how your Garys and your outposts will look, because and allocate your infantry bodies as well, to sending them more north, more south, and to dedicating maybe a little in the middle, because you want to secure your flanks, the opening pressure, and to wrap around the enemy. And that's what you see mostly on SME. Number two, like I mentioned before, look at the other team's openings. There's so many games out there you can watch. You can look at the championship games. You can look at any playoff games, and just understand, like, hey, what did this team do really well? Did they cap first? Did they not cap first? That way you can really maybe copy their strategy and adjust it a little bit and go from there. But there's so many resources available in order to be able to do that. Tip number 3, understand whether or not to expect truck snipes. Now, I talk about truck snipes, I'm talking about, are your routes so common that on other streams you've watched, the trucks have gotten taken out most of the time. On maps like Foy, you can expect your trucks to pretty much get destroyed on both sides. And the important thing there is that you prepare your team for the recap scenario. To say, hey guys, we don't expect to make it to the point. We're most likely going to get destroyed on the way there. The important thing is for squad leads to bail out early, to get up garrisons, to get up outposts, that sort of thing. And then we can quickly have those guys on the redeploy screen, bounce on those, and start attacking whatever objective we need to. I've seen teams go on, I've casted quite a few games, and I always look towards the common truck snipes routes, and I look at them and go, oh my gosh, they're going to go down this road, or they're going to go through this hedge, and that's so common to get sniped from. And next thing you know, I see on stream the whole truck gets obliterated. There's so many games out there from top tier teams where they do those snipes that certain routes should be totally unavoided. Not going to call any teams out here, but there's certain routes that should be avoided. And that's what I always try to look at on the beginning of streams. Truck snipes and rocket snipes can be so important to demoralizing the enemy off of the opening and really giving your team the advantage. On the opposite side, let's talk about your team and how they can prep for truck snipes and rocket snipes. Now, there's a guide out there by TL Pepper, and now there's other ones as well, but you can watch those guides and have some teams or have some players in your team practice those opening truck routes that the enemy usually should take and load up their rockets. You can get 4, 5, 6 guys off the opening rocketing, and just time it. There's once again plenty of streams available, but they can time the expected truck routes and just give it a shot and just fire those 6 or 7 rockets. They redeploy, go to the front line, and just see if they're able to get any enemy trucks. If you watch my ESPT versus WTH match, the WTH was able to get the Ally medium. They took it out with rockets, a whole rocket salvo off of the opening, and it was unbelievable. We'll go ahead and take a look at that here right now. Okay, here we have the ESPT versus WTH match on SME I was referring to, and we'll go ahead and watch the opening. Trucks going in, everything's looking good. First snipe starting to come in. Rockets miss the trucks, looks like. And Sean gets out up to the north. Okay, here we're going toward the SME. Remember, the allies are usually favored to cap this first. And Here we have the Stewies rolling up and the Allied tanks just going towards the point and everything. Everything looks good and good to go. Sending bodies, of course, to the hard cap here, which will help secure this. Another rocket flies here. Opening rocket goes. The rocket barely misses the opening medium. Underneath, but then it's the power. It's the power of quantity when it comes to the rockets in this case, because it was just watch. Medium just barely. Another rocket goes in. Another rocket goes in, and it gets the opening medium. They took out the opening Allied medium with rockets. Beautiful, beautiful. That is the power of planning your rocket snipes off of the opening. Because now what this does is the Axis medium can push up and without fear of the Sherman and wipe out the Stewies, wipe out the Greyhounds, all that stuff. It really just gives the Axis a massive advantage off of the opening until the Allied medium or Allied heavy tanks are able to come up. But huge. And so if your team can work on those rocket snipes, perfect those, and you have guys that practice, then you can really give your team a competitive advantage, at least for the opening. And the key thing here is to push beyond this and gain as much ground now that you have it. But the Axis tanks here are going to be free to push on up and take out the Allied tanks, or the Allied light and recon tanks. So rocket snipes and truck snipes are very, very key. Oh my gosh, the opening video for ESBT goes down. What a timed play there. Holy smokes. All the different snipes coming in. All in AT rockets to the hard cap. ASAP. We have Nators moving up. And now we see the Axis medium here. Axis medium is right here. And then the Luxes, I think, are back here in support. But now this Axis medium is free to go throughout the point and suppress the enemy infantry and all that kind of stuff. And really just be able to lay hate all around until we see later on during the game. I mean, the Allies responded really well by getting AT guys over here and rocketing the hell out of these Axis tanks. And the Allies did end up capping, but it was a real struggle there for a while. But very solid opening and an excellent example, the power of opening rocket snipes and truck snipes. Number 4 is to maintain communication. You got to keep talking. I don't care if you're down 2-3 and it looks abysmal. You have to keep communication flowing in command chat to say, hey, can we get a flare here? Can we get infantry support here? Just to keep everybody in the mood, in the game, and good to go. Because you don't want total silence for 5 to 10 minutes, because then everybody starts to get kind of sad and depressed and they're not motivated as much. You got to keep people talking, keep the energy flowing, understand, hey, we need to capture this building. Can we get more bodies over here to capture this objective? But in all of your strat sketches that you're laying out for capping or recapping a point, you should always say, hey, this is step number 1, we need to take this. Step number 2, we need to take that. Step number 3, we need to go over here and accomplish that objective. And that way your team has a very clear outline as to what your plan should be. Because you don't want your team, after you go down 2-3, to say, oh, what do we do now? You're the commander or whoever's in charge of prepping should communicate in chat. Okay, everybody look at your strat sketch, understand what step 1, 2, and 3 are to securing the point or whatever we need. Okay? But you want to keep that communication flowing all throughout. You don't want too much silence. You want to just keep everybody's spirits up. Communication is so key. But hey, here I see an enemy tank. An enemy tank's over here. Armor, do you need any support? Armor, do you need any repair stations? Let's get more garrisons up, because when you go down 2-3, usually the team is lacking a lot of garrisons, and you want to just, hey, let's go get a garrison up over here. Hey, can you shift your OP there? That sort of thing. Just talk. Just keep talking. Keep those spirits up and keep rolling. Okay. Tip number 5 is maximize your armor. When it comes to pretty much any map, what I find on my streams is that you're going to see a slog most of the game. And it's just back and forth. For good games where it's just a nice even trade, teams go back and forth and they basically fight over the same 100 meters. And what most of the time it comes down to is a big armor push, because armor can break through a little line, and they can smash the infantry temporarily, and the enemy armor is usually maybe dispersed because they're up 3-2. You want to be able to use that time in which the enemy armor has to adapt to whatever you're doing, okay? Here we have, once again, the SME match here, and let's go ahead to the very end of the game. I'm going to talk about this here. Here we have 2 minutes, 46 seconds left. We have 2 Tigers in the alleyway right here and a Panzer IV. Then I believe there was maybe a Luke's as well. But WTH is getting ready to say, hey, let's just push all the armor. Maybe we'll be able to catch the ESPT armor off guard, and we'll give it a shot. There are too many times at the end of the game where I see teams have a medium in their HQ, a recon tank in their HQ, a Luke's in the HQ, or a light tank in their HQ, all 3 of those. Meanwhile, they have maybe 2 heavies or 3 heavies up on the front line. It's okay to have 3 heavies up on the front line, but you want to instill the practice of having flex tank crews in your team, because rushing a 1-man Puma, 1-man Greyhound through a point, along with a 2-man light tank, that sort of thing, can cause extra havoc and force the enemy heavy tanks to respond to that. Meanwhile, your heavy tanks and maybe your medium tank are pushing up and looking to coordinate a takedown. You have to maximize the armor play for your full-on push, and maybe even throw a truck in there. There was a game I casted this weekend at the end where EGIG versus VLK on Foy Night, where VLK had some armor left, but they decided to run, I think, 3 or 4 transport trucks, 3 transport trucks, I think it was, towards the objective to see if they can cause a bunch of chaos, along with a Greyhound with a couple SLs in it, and to see what happened. And I appreciated their effort. It was really great and everything. But your team needs to maximize your armor. There are free tanks up on the board. Have somebody jump in. All they have to do is drive. Even if it's just a 1-man, they can zoom around the objective, and just cause chaos, wipe OPs, wipe garrisons. Guys got to utilize your armor squads. Get flank tank crews. Even if they say, I suck at tanking, I don't care. Jump in the recon vehicle where you don't need to shift gears and just run through the point and see if you can get anything. Because an OP wipe here, an outpost wipe over there could be huge. It could be huge. You have no idea what kind of snowball effect that can have on the enemy team. Please keep that in mind. But here we saw the WTH tank crews were about to rush inside with the Panzer IV, so everything was lining up for this big push on the church right here. And then... did it get 2? And then the precision strike knocked out 2 Tigers right here with 2:42 left on the clock. Crazy play. But anyways, WTH was really close to, I think, having a solid chance of recapping this. And the WTH commander also...
Netflix goes back. Oh, precision strike's coming in. Let's go take a look.
Yeah, they also called in a precision strike.
Should be back here.
Landed on the 76 and destroyed the 76 with 3:12 left to go. So once again, those Tigers and the Panzer IV are ready to go, ready to push the point. But unfortunately for them, the precision strike came in at literally the perfect time and took out those 2 heavy tanks. But yeah, utilize your armor, maximize it. Designate before the game to say, hey, here's who's going to be in flex tank crews, and we'll activate those during the game to say, hey, flex tank crews, jump in the light, medium, and the recon vehicles. Let's get these going. Let's get 6 tanks up on the board for this big last-minute push. Hell, throw a Jeep in there too to cause even more chaos. Have a guy... I still think Jeeps are probably one of the most... There's so much room for Jeeps, I feel, in this game to be very creative with. I'm talking... have already dropped smoke on the point, and a Jeep run through that smoke, drive on through, and go around and just wipe a whole bunch of OPs. Because chances are they're not going to see the Jeep as it flies through and everything, and it's so quick and nimble, you could probably wipe a whole bunch of OPs if you know they're concentrated around a certain hedge line, or maybe in Foy with the barns and stuff. Jeeps, I feel like I need to see more Jeep action on stream. I feel like there's so much potential there. But, okay. All right, so those are the 5 points for today, everybody, for when it comes to capping and recap the point. Most of those were, I guess, capping, but so I'll go over recapping a point. But just once again, going over the 5 here. Understand the key parts, the buildings, the terrain, where they're open field, where can we get crossfire on from certain angles. Look at other teams' openings, understand what they did. Where did they send their tanks? Where did they send their machine gunners? Where did they rocket snipe? Where did they put their OPs, their garrisons? Just understand what they did and maybe why they did it. There's so much video out there. Every team looks at other teams and how they may have won. They study all their material. Okay. Number 3, understand whether or not to expect truck snipes. That goes for planning truck snipes as well. Should your team prepare for a recap off of the opening, or should they prepare to cap the point? Because that's going to adjust where or how aggressive you get with your outposts or your garrisons, and your allocation around. And so on maps like Utah for Chapel, the allies are expected to cap first, so they'll look to offset the Axis pressure in the south, and then just look to, hey, we're going to get garrisons up first, and we're going to look to just hold the enemy back. Okay. And number 4, maintain communication. Keep talking. Keep the vibe rolling throughout the match. Keep everybody's spirits up. Even if you're down 2-3, 1-4, you got to keep talking. Hey, we need to do this. We need to do that. Understand where your key objectives are. We need to do this first, this second, and this third in order to capture this point. And you wait until number 1 is accomplished to move on to step 2. And it's all about allocating resources throughout the map. Okay. Number 5 is maximize your armor. Jump in the medium tank, the light tank, the recon tank. Have flex tank crews designated before the match to say, you guys are responsible for jumping in tanks if it comes down to it at the end of the game, or if we feel like, hey, we have a chance to cap this, we just need some more armor to run through the point, cause a little bit of chaos. Because who knows, you may catch the Axis, for example, not playing that many rifle AT players. Maybe they have a bunch of guys who hate the Kar 98 and they don't have any rockets. That's probably one of the most wild things I catch on stream is you'll see a recon tank have free reign over everything because nobody has rockets. They have satchels, no rockets. And the Greyhound or Puma wipe out 3-4 OPs, a garrison, just cause chaos. Use that to your advantage as much as possible. I can't stress that enough. You don't want to have any tanks in the HQ when the game's ticking down. You want to be able to have guys you can call on to say, jump in those tanks and rush them into the point. Just figure out something crazy. The key is to cause chaos. Okay, so those are my 5 tips for today. I'll make some more tips as well going forward, but just want to get this started and see what kind of questions you all have when it comes to capping a point for this. Okay, everybody, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time, buddy. Have a good one.